What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another match review for you guys. As Spurs lost 3-2 to Bournemouth at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the latest calamity of the Tottenham Hotspur team. And I mean, you were there yesterday. What was the atmosphere like in the stadium?
It was funny because at the start of the game, obviously I was watching the end. We were watching the end of the Newcastle game, seeing they were getting absolutely battered 3-0 by Aston Villa, and it put everyone kind of in good spirits. The sun was out. Everyone was kind of feeling, look, we've got a really big opportunity today, thanks to Newcastle's loss. If they're on the ropes, not on the ropes, but if they're if there are signs they're gonna start to struggle, if we can get a win, really put pressure on them going into the game next week in Newcastle. And all of a sudden, it kind of turned the mood around yesterday with that news. And at the start of the game, we're 1-0 up after like 15-20 minutes with a nice goal from Son, and we're looking good, and it's like, okay, it's going to be a routine victory. But it did not turn out like that at all at the end of the game. And it did turn a bit toxic through the game, with the Sanchez incident, the fans booing him, and obviously with how we were unable to convert our chances and the way we lost control of the game and gave up to Bournemouth. But it was just a weird one, because even though we've been on bad form and not been playing well, it was a kind of good feeling at the start of the game, but definitely did turn sour.
Yeah, and look, let's take it from the beginning stages of the game. I thought when the game started, Bournemouth came out the traps really well, and the first opening 5 minutes, I think, they did put us under a bit of pressure without creating too much. And then Spurs kind of took control of proceedings after that. After 5 minutes in, Kane has that big chance when he was played in by Heung-min Son, where he should have done better from. And then there's a great ball over the top by Clement Longley, finds Perisic in behind Tavernier. He pulls it back to Heung-min Son, and Heung-min Son duly delivered with a bit of deflection. But we go 1-0 up, and we're in control. We're looking good. We're definitely on top. We're pressing them high up the pitch. We're not letting them have a moment's rest. And then something just flicked in the game, and then suddenly Bournemouth just started putting so much pressure on us. We couldn't get out our half, really. We were trying to play it out the back, the usual tricks, kept giving it back to Bournemouth time and time again. And I don't understand how we lost control of the game, like a flick of a switch there in that middle of the first half.
Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on exactly why we lost control, but it did seem to look, because I thought just after we got the first goal, for the next 5-10 minutes, I felt like Spurs did smell blood a bit and were looking for a second. Like, Kane had a good chance to make it too. We were having a couple of openings. We didn't make the most of them, and then all of a sudden, I think Tavernier has a chance on the right hand side, forces a good save out of Lloris, and all of a sudden that made us panic, and then obviously it coincided as well with Longley going off for Sanchez, Romero going over to the left, and Sanchez coming on, and all of a sudden we started to panic when we were on the ball in our defensive third, and we weren't able to progress the ball up. Obviously not only down to Sanchez, but I think Bournemouth as well started to press a bit higher. They started to put us under a bit more pressure, and it duly told with the goal that they scored, which was, again, all little Tottenham's own making. Playing it around the back, Sanchez gets the ball stuck under his feet. He gets it to Porro. Porro, to his defence, didn't have too many options. But what you can't do is just give the ball away in that area. You got to clear it. You got to make sure that you're no danger. You can't just try and dribble your way out of trouble. And that's what he did. He had, I thought, an atrocious first half, especially, and Bavina gets a run off Sanchez. He gets wrong side of him, and he dinks over Lloris, and it's 1-1. And it was kind of deserved for how they had stolen control back in that first half.
Yeah, I could feel it coming, to be honest, sitting here in the studio, and I was thinking, we need half time here. We need half time here. We kept saying that because Bournemouth were just putting us under untold pressure, and they got their rewards for it at the end of the day. And it goes in 1-1, and it was probably a fair reflection of how the game went. We were dominant in the first half stages. They were dominant in the second half stages. So I thought 1-1 was a fair reflection. And then me and Nick were sitting here in the studio discussing, was that our good half or was that our bad half? And then it all unfolded in that second half. And you're thinking, keep it tight a bit, get an early goal potentially. But no, it was the complete opposite. I mean, the ball comes down the line from Kelly. Porro tries to intercept it, and it just falls to Solanke, doesn't it? And Solanke plays it to Tavernier, who skins Sanchez so easily. I mean, the way he gets past Sanchez there is disgraceful defending, really is. And Dyer tries to make up for the gap that Sanchez is leaving, and it's just a complete mess at the back. And they slot it home, and it's 2-1 to Bournemouth.
Yeah, Sanchez tried to make. Look, he gets beaten by Tavernier, and then he gets the tackle in, and his tackle falls. And instead of going to Dyer, it falls straight to Solanke, who's able to prod it home, and it was just a complete, absolute mess at the back from Spurs. And Sanchez definitely at the heart of it. Porro as well, with a few of his clearances, obviously going back to Bournemouth players. It was like a hot potato. We just couldn't get rid of it, and it just kept going back to Bournemouth. And obviously, you got to give them credit for their tenacity, and they just didn't give up. They were chasing lost courses, and obviously it fell for them. But again, another goal, all of our own making. Just yes, you got to credit the persistence of Bournemouth to just keep plugging away. But you have to say it was like any competent defender in those situations. That situation gets dealt with pretty simply. Either a Sanchez tackle, even Porro could have done better. Dyer maybe could have covered the space better. All of it led to the ball falling to Solanke. He dinks it home confidently, and all of a sudden it's 2-1 Bournemouth. They didn't even have to do much for that goal. They just lumped it forward, and everything kind of just fell in their favour, and they couldn't believe their luck, I don't think, at that point.
They could not believe their luck, and they go 2-1 up. They're in the ascendancy. 5-10 minutes later, he decides to hook Davinson Sanchez off after bringing him on. After 35 minutes, he comes on, gets hooked after, 58 minutes or 59 minutes, something like that. Goes off to big boos from the home end. Obviously, you were there, so you can say more about it. But it wasn't just him going off to boos. Apparently, he was getting booed every time he touched the ball.
He was. It was interesting because in the first half, obviously, when he came on for Longley, there were a few like boo murmurs and whatever. Like it wasn't like loud. And then we conceded the goal. And then it was a weird thing. There was so after we conceded the goal, whenever Sanchez, after that moment, whenever he got the ball, there was like quite loud, audible boos from a large section of the crowd. But then it was a weird one because then at that point, a lot of the Spurs fans kind of disagreed the booing and started to like cheer him. Well, like when he got in the ball to show him a bit of support. So there was kind of like counterbalancing the boos. But then in the second half, when he made that mistake for the second goal, then it was literally just boos. There was no support after that moment. Like he was literally getting roundly booed by every single touch. He was making like really loud boos as well, and it was really not a good sight to see. And I think I remember I saw Danjuma warming up like on 58, and obviously we were 2-1 down, so we need to make an attacking sub. And Graham's like, "Who do you reckon's coming off?" I was the person I sit next to called Graham, and I was like, to be honest with you, in this situation, I would just take off Sanchez, not just because of how badly he's playing and because he's getting booed, but because if we're looking to get back in the game and if we're going to go to a back, I would rather us go to a back four than keep this formation, just really go for it. And I was still kind of shocked when he decided to do it, because obviously he's just come on. He's like 20 minutes in, he's not got an injury, but you can see it really affected obviously Sanchez when he went off. He looked pretty distraught, but I did think it was the right decision. I think just for the fact that how he was playing and the fact that it was causing a bit of toxicity in the stadium, I think Stellini made the right call. But obviously, fans booing him Sanchez is a player. I know. Look, we've been critical of him. We know he's not good enough to be for Spurs. We know that he's a liability as a defender, but he doesn't go on there not to try. I don't see him as one of those players who's lazy or like doesn't give his best. So like I can't stand like fans turning on a player like that and just and the whole stadium booing him because he's made a couple of mistakes. Like it's not like I understand he's not a good player, but I never support booing your own players in that kind of situation.
Completely agree. I couldn't agree more, and I thought it was really disgusting, to be honest. Not only the boos when he's touching the ball every time he's on the pitch, not only the boos when he goes off, but the boos when he comes on as well. I mean, it's just disgrace. And how do they expect a player to perform at his best, wherever his best is as terrible as Sanchez is beside the point. But how do they, expect a player to really perform when you boo him when coming on? How's that supposed to give you confidence when your home crowd are booing you?
Of course not.
It's disgusting. It really
and
is.
Also as much as the players should remain professional and everything like that. Of course they should, but like that's obviously when his teammate, they're his teammates. And his teammates are a lot. You know, he's been at this club a long time, so a lot of them he's probably very, very close friends with at this point, and they're not going to like that, are they? When they see the fans turning on his friends, and exactly, Lloris said he's never seen anything like this, and so how do you think that his teammates and the other players are going to react to that kind of situation? They're not going to, and it's not going to give them a extra motivation to go get the result. They're going to feel bad for their friend who's getting absolutely battered by the home fans, and that's obviously not going to cause a good feeling within them as well. So how it affects the whole team? Probably negatively, I would say.
And it's not Sanchez's fault that he's so bad at football, you know what I mean? It's our fault for signing for 40 million. It's our fault for not signing replacements where we have to put him on the pitch. We're the ones putting him in the firing line. He's not fit for purpose, but that's not his fault. That's our fault for poor planning over and over again. So, and when you're thinking about the game yesterday or whenever Sanchez is on the pitch and if you want to give him a bad reception, if you think he's the only problem at this football club, then you're very wrongly mistaken, you know. How many of those other players on that pitch deserve to get booed yesterday? Why is he the only one getting booed?
I guess he's just a symbol of... I guess
he was made a scapegoat yesterday.
Yeah, of course he was. Of course he was. And not to say he played well, because he didn't, but he was the one, because I guess people see him as a symbol of the stagnation of this football club. Like they see him as like the perfect example of that.
But the perfect example should be directed at Daniel Levy. That's where it should all be directed at.
Of course, and there were chances of Levy out, albeit they weren't very loud, not as loud as the boos for Sanchez. But I agree, Sanchez was pretty much thrown under a bus by the fans in a way yesterday.
Look, there's no two ways about it. His performance was disgraceful yesterday. I'm not saying it wasn't. But the fact is, fans should not be reacting like that. They should not be singling out a player when, yes, he was probably the worst player on the pitch, but there were other players that were just as bad as him, or if not just a little bit better, which is not great. So if you're going to single out players, single out all of them, because they all should be in the firing line. And if you really want to turn your attentions to someone, turn it to Daniel Levy, because he's the one that really deserves it. So that's all I think that we should say on that matter. But Spurs did start piling the pressure on, didn't they? In that stage of the game, Richarlison comes on for Skip, and at that point, we've got everyone on the starting lineup.
Yeah, literally.
Richarlison, Kane, Son, Danjuma, Decky as well. I mean, everyone we had on the pitch at that time.
And I was happy about it because I think we've kind of a lot of fans have criticised Conte for keeping it too much, the tactics too much the same, never changing formation. He just makes like substitutions and never really makes changes to affect the game. And you could credit Stellini, whatever you want to say about how he played and stuff. He did try things, you know. He brought off Sanchez, put Danjuma, went to a back four, put Porro and Perisic on fullbacks and put Romero, Dyer centre backs, and really went for it. Decky kind of in the hole, Kane, Son there, Kane there. Then he brings off instead when Richarlison comes through and think, okay, it's probably going to be Decky. He's probably going to do another like for like stuff. No, he takes off Skip and he puts Kane in centre mid with Højbjerg there, and he completely changed it up. And to be fair to Stellini and to Spurs, we did pile on the pressure, and it did nearly work. We were creating chances. Kane had a chance with a header. We had a few chances from corners. Perisic had a volley which went over the bar. We had a goal ruled out from Richarlison, which from VAR for an offside. And then obviously the goal came. Danjuma with a left-footed strike. I was just looking at the replay. I did see him take a slight deflection and it dropped into the corner. I think that was reward for the pressure we'd put on, to be fair. And I did think that we deserved that equaliser. And if anyone was going to go on and win it, it did seem to be Tottenham. But then in a weird way, the formation changes, which allowed us to put pressure on Bournemouth at the end, in a way came back to bite us with the goal we conceded.
Yeah, and it just showed that like 2 minutes of football showed like how tight this game was and how much of on a knife edge it was, because we have that corner, don't we? Richarlison, free header, should have put it away. It goes wide. They go up the other end of the pitch and score straight away, pretty much. You know, I think it was Smith plays it all the way up there. Was it to to Solanke, and Porro, he just bodies Porro. Porro was just so weak in that challenge. Solanke wins it, turns away from Romero, plays it into Ouattara, and Ouattara checks in and slots it home. A lovely finish from Ouattara, to be honest, and those are 3 points.
Yeah, and I felt like those just at one point it's a bit unlucky because like those literally that's the only 2 points the whole game pretty much. The Bournemouth went forward and they ended up getting 2 goals, so it's obviously frustrating. But you can't have too many complaints when
I would say in the second half, maybe not in the
yeah,
first
no,
half.
that's what I'm saying. In the second half,
right.
And they scored 2 goals from it, and that's got to be frustrating from a Tottenham point of view, having so much of the ball and then literally they go forward 2 times and score. But you can't have too many complaints when you defend like that when they do go forward, and it was absolutely atrocious defending on both occasions. Again,
all 3 goals, weren't they?
Yeah, all 3 goals were atrocious. Were gifts from them, and obviously again, all 3 of them you got to give Bournemouth credit because they just they persisted. They were, as I said, chasing lost causes. Like that Solanke one, you know, that's a bit of a lost cause, but he was able to use his body strength and beat Porro to it, and then cut inside and obviously create a chance for Ouattara. So Bournemouth obviously did their part, which is putting 100% in, but any competent defenders in those situations that we were in should be dealing with those situations, and we just weren't able to. And as well, going forward, as much as we did pile on the pressure, we literally had one plan, and that was work our way out wide, get it to Porro or Perisic, whipping across, and see and play the percentages pretty much. But what really pissed me off is a lot of the times we were swinging crosses in, even when we had many strikers on. A lot of the time it was only Kane in the box, and I was thinking like, why is not everyone piling in at this point? If we're getting all these crosses in, like why is they're looking up for a cross? They only have one target. Well, I don't understand what's going on there. I thought it was pretty ridiculous, but I think we obviously we did create some moments, but we just, in terms of going through the central areas, like we just had absolutely no joy whatsoever. It was really difficult for us. They were clogging up centrally, and I actually thought Porro in the second half was whipping in some pretty good crosses, and we just weren't making the most of them. I think Perisic in the second half wasn't really doing much on that left hand side, but that's why we're lacking creativity through the centre. That's why we need someone in the centre who can have a bit of guile and a bit of an eye for a pass, because it seemed as if it wasn't Harry Kane in centre mid, we just had nothing through the centre.
Just so one-dimensional. We really are. I mean, apart from, like you say, Harry Kane, we've just forced out wide every time, and it's just so frustrating because Perisic yesterday started the game really well and was putting in good balls. He started and looked really good offensively, and he vanished out of the game fairly quickly. And I felt, towards the end, maybe Porro had a few good crosses, but our service from out wide, when you're looking at the whole game, the 90-minute stretch of the game, was really poor. And when our deliveries are poor from out wide, then we've literally got nothing. And that showed, like, all that dominance that we had, we created barely any clear-cut chances.
Yeah. We should be good. I think we had 24 shots, but I think our XG was, if you look at the stats actually throughout the game, we had 2.23 XG throughout the game, 24 shots, 8 on target. We did have 3 big chances, it says, which we missed 2 of them. But the first half was a lot more even. 1 point, we still out XG'd them a bit. It was going 1-1 into the at the end of the first half, and then second half, it was pretty much actually it says it was less even actually in the second half, it says here, but we definitely had more shots and more possession in that second half. I guess it's because the chances Bournemouth created they scored from were actually, they're probably decent chances, where in the first half they didn't maybe create too many clear-cut ones. But we had 2 big chances that second half which we missed. It was proper domination, in my opinion, in that second half. But
there's 2 big chances with the Richarlison and Kane ones.
I think so. Yeah. But if you look, I think the progress bar tells the story of the game. If you look at the first half, like after we scored, Bournemouth obviously took control and deservedly equalised. But look, Bournemouth had barely anything in that second half. You can see it here in terms of like threat. But
those two bars that they do have are the 2 goals that they scored.
Pretty much.
And but the bars that we've got there, it looks as though, like, if you just look at this, it looks as though we were good in the second half, but we really weren't. We really weren't. We might have had a bit more possession, a bit more dominance, but we're doing nothing with it hardly.
And also probably skewed by the fact that right at the beginning of the second half, Bournemouth scored as well. So they literally just sat back from like the 50th minute essentially and gave us the ball and asked us to break them down, and we weren't able to do it.
However, Gary O'Neill goes after the game, yeah, we dominated throughout.
No, did he say? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
No, that's silly.
He said the only thing that Spurs had were a few counter-attacks, he said.
Oh, but that's silly. That's silly. No, come on. I don't think that's a fair reading of the game. But obviously, Bournemouth, you got to give them credit because I thought they did do well throughout the game. They probably defended well. When they attacked, they never gave up. They never gave up, and they kind of chased things down and forced mistakes out of us. And obviously, we're capable of those mistakes, as you've seen. But from Tottenham's point of view, going forward, we were very one-dimensional. All we had was one plan: get out wide, and that's where the goals came from as well. Out wide, Perisic to Son, and a ball into the box and it falls to Danjuma, and we score. That's pretty much all we had. No real passages of play, opening them up, quick football. It was just pretty much work the ball out wide and look for something, and then from the back. Calamitous. All three goals were absolute calamity. Were mistake-ridden, individual mistakes, things, long balls that should be dealt with simply by competent defenders not being dealt with. There was no, even if you did as like a safety-first kind of mentality, like if in doubt, put it out, that probably would have worked. And we just weren't able to do that even. We were trying to too confidently play our way out of trouble or deal with situations in a different way. And it came back to bite us, and defensively, in those moments, we were just atrocious. So like Bournemouth, the weird thing is Bournemouth, it wasn't like they were consistently on the attack, forcing mistakes. It's like they literally went on the attack on a few occasions, and on those few occasions, we made mistakes, and that was and we just weren't able to deal with it, and that's what cost us in the end. And then the killer blow in the 95th minute. So, and on top of that, massive missed opportunity after Newcastle losing, and now we go into next week and the draw's not even a good enough result now next week.
Look, there might have been a couple of Spurs fans that still believed before that Bournemouth game, but I think you'll be hard pressed to find any Tottenham fan who believes that we can actually make a fist out of this top four race now. I mean, you're looking at our fixtures and every one looks so difficult now. Every single one. You're looking at Newcastle away next, Man United at home after that, Liverpool away after that. And then even after that, these games, we've got Crystal Palace coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, who are performing really well under Roy Hodgson now. We've got to go to Aston Villa. We've got Brentford to welcome here, who are playing well at the moment. And then we go to Leeds, last game of the season. I mean, out of all those games, I can see us maybe getting points against Crystal Palace and Brentford at home. And maybe Leeds away last game of the season. That's all I can think of. Apart from that, I can see us losing every other game.
After we've lost at home to Bournemouth, it's obviously going to feel like that, and I think it's rightfully going to feel like that, especially now Longlay's injured as well. So I don't know what we do next game. Could we really put Sanchez in after what happened? I don't know.
I don't think Sanchez plays against.
So I don't know what we do in terms of, do we change formation? I'd like to see us change formation, to be honest.
They'd put Tanganga there.
Could put Tanganga there. I don't know how long Longlay's injured for, but he didn't look great. So look, this top four race, I think yesterday we had to take all 3 points if we wanted any faint hope, especially after Newcastle losing to Villa. That really opened the door for us, because that was maybe a result, not maybe unexpected, but like it's a result that really went in our favour. And to again let it slip through our fingers like we did when we're playing Bournemouth at home, it's just, and you're 1-0 up as well in the game. Absolute shambles, and I think we have to start accepting, that Champions League is going to be too far beyond us. Albeit, obviously, if we do somehow perform a miracle and beat Newcastle next week, then it changed it again. But unless I have to say, unless it's a win, even if we end up drawing next week, I think that's not good enough. It has to be a victory next week against Newcastle to have any faint hope of that top four. Otherwise, I think it's pretty much over now, because we're not going to win. I think we'll probably look back at the end of the season and say this was probably the week that really got killed off.
Yeah, and I think that when you're looking at it, I actually think it's more likely than not that teams like Aston Villa and Brighton finish above us.
Well, Villa are only 3 points behind, and they're on great momentum.
That's what I'm saying. We got to go there.
Yeah, great momentum. It's going to be a bit, and they got the pressure's really off them as well. because like anything at this point for Villa, anything's just a massive bonus. And like I think for Villa, like Emre was saying, he's just looking at top half, so anything above top half is just a massive bonus for them. And so like if they even for them even to like, they're 6 points behind Newcastle, for them even to be in this top 4 race is an absolute miracle. So they're going to be proper up for it, and whereas us, you know, the pressure's on us. You know,
what happens then?
The hierarchy are probably putting pressure on, you know, the coaching staff to get that to last top 4 space. They're going to be putting the pressure on the players to do it after we did it last season. So we don't like playing under pressure. So I think it's more likely that we crumble 100%.
Yeah, well, there you have it. Top 4 race seemingly all but done. Losing 3-2 to Bournemouth at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in another disgraceful result for Tottenham Hotspur. But that is your match review. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the game. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
Come